Since fall is here, it is officially Oscar season, and I decided what better time than right as Venice is beginning to talk about 47 films that I think are important to understand this year's Oscar season. These aren't films that are necessarily going to get nominations. These are films that, as I saw it in my definition, I believe are going to get a for your consideration campaign, and there is at least going to be Oscar buzz surrounding these titles. Does it mean that it's going to go on to win? Does it even mean that it's going to go on to get nominated? Not necessarily, but we're going to be talking about 47 films, and it's going to be everything from some of the best pictures, directors, some of the above the lines. We're also talking a few below the line. So for instance, I'm going to rattle off like 10 real quick. These are all films that I think are going to be in contention for maybe like 1 or 2 awards, and it might be just like best visual effects, best animated feature. I tried to ground them in bite-size approaches. So in that, I am going to be talking about the narrative, I'm going to be talking about the most likely nomination it will receive, and if it hasn't premiered, where it's premiering, what we know about that. Number 47 for me, let's just start off with one of these below-the-line categories. Best animated picture, I have The Wild Robot. This is Universal DreamWorks Pictures. I wrote down for the narrative, it is a new animated film from an established studio that feels artistically fresh, with more adult themes, while also feeling appropriate for all audiences. I think the most likely nomination for this film is Best Animated Feature. It's going to have its premiere at TIFF September 8th, US September 27th. I'm excited for this movie. It looks really good. Number 46 for me, also an animated feature. This is Wallace and Gromit: Vengeance Most Fowl. The narrative for this receiving, as I said, a Best Animated Picture nomination would be beloved and wildly respected international animation studio returning to their signature franchise, whose last installment, released in 2005, won Best Animated Feature at the 78th Academy Awards. This is going to be premiering on Christmas on Netflix. However, I think a British Film Festival premiere is not out of the realm of possibilities. That's why I have it there. 45, Twisters. I just said best visual effects. If you want to catch up on that, I think Twisters, I think Mufasa, the Lion King is certainly going to be in conversation for best visual effects. That's what I have at 44. I have the narrative for that film being a gigantic hit of the winter holiday that also showcases Disney's willingness to hire bold, exciting directors like Barry Jenkins. I actually said that the most likely nomination Mufasa will receive is probably Best Original Song, and I don't even know if that's going to be in contention or if there's even an original song. I just believe that Beyonce is attached to this project and somehow, and I just kind of buy into the belief that Beyonce can get a Oscar nomination. I don't think she's ever gotten the win, so that just kind of fits for me. 43, in the vein of Disney, let's rattle these out quick. Moana 2, narrative, the sequel to the smash hit sensation, now returning in a time where the box office could use a boost and Disney themselves could use a win, given the past critical reception of their past 2 years of November releases in Wish and Strange Worlds. Most likely nomination, Best Original Song, premieres November 27th. 42, a film I do not know much about, but have been hearing a lot of critical acclaim. This is coming from IFC Films, Memoir of a Snail. I believe the narrative of this film is, simply put, that it is a very good movie from all accounts, and it's a very unique movie. Most likely nomination, I'm saying Best Animated Feature, premieres October 17th in Australia. Could this film get a New York Film Festival premiere? I think it's in the realm of possibilities. 41, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Quick narrative on this. 20th Century Studios, a series of blockbuster films that span generation and continue to be a staple within big studio movie making while maintaining a level of artistic integrity. With that artistic integrity in mind, I'm giving it a Best Visual Effects chance at a nomination, so an FYC campaign for that. Number 40, Inside Out 2, Disney and Pixar. And narrative would be the film that served as a beacon of hope for the summer box office, as well as a return to form for a struggling Pixar studio that has not had a billion-dollar hit since 2019 with Toy Story 4. Let's just hit 2 more of these below the lines. Furiosa, Mad Max Saga, narrative, George Miller's follow-up to his critically acclaimed masterpiece, Mad Max Fury Road. Most likely nomination, Best Sound. I think everyone is probably thinking, wow, Mad Max like, the huge follow-up to Fury Road, and it's just kind of went out with a whimper. I mean, that is what happened at the box office. This movie did not perform in any meaningful way at the box office, and most people kind of think this is a much worse film. I actually think it's a quite great film, and I would really suggest people checking it out, but that's where we are right now. 38, this film actually just had its premiere at Venice. It seems to be positive reviews, but maybe not the overwhelmingly positive reviews that I thought this film might be encountering. We have Beetlejuice Beetlejuice. The narrative for this would be Tim Burton returning to his 80s root with a film that offers lots of practical effects and a promising Michael Keaton performance at the center. Most likely nomination, I believe it has a chance at a few of the below the lines, production design, but realistically, I think best costuming or best makeup and hair are both on the tables. Like I said, it premiered today, Wednesday, August 28th. It has its U.S. premiere September 6th. Whew! That is the below the line categories. Now let's jump over to this next category, honoring George W. Bush. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me, you can't get fooled again. Number 37. And I should just say these are films that I'm like, there are reasons to believe that there could be a nomination in this film's future, that it has a lot of staples that the Academy tends to like. There's some huge red flags that really worry me with these films. Number 37, I have Eden, directed by Ron Howard, making a futuristic, apocalyptic, international disaster film featuring 3 bright, up-and-coming young stars in Ana de Armas, Sydney Sweeney, Vanessa Kirby. I think the most likely nomination is Ana de Armas. She has already received an Oscar nomination for, and let's be honest, a very bad film in Blonde. The Academy seems to like her. She has international appeal. This film premieres TIFF September 7th. Honestly, I just don't know if we can give Ron Howard awards after Hillbilly Elegy and the J.D. Vance going on in our culture right now. So seems like a tough beat, and Ron Howard hasn't really made a critically acclaimed Oscar film in quite some time. 36. I'm actually seeing the play this Sunday at San Francisco. It is Wicked, Universal narrative, the Broadway sensation that took the world by storm, based on one of the most significant films ever made in The Wizard of Oz. Most likely nomination, best makeup and hairstyling, premieres November 22nd. Let's just get the red flag out of the way. The musical genre has not done well with the Academy. Cats failed. You've had Dear Evan Hansen failed. Les Mis was kind of like the exception. But again, these films just don't perform in any big ways. Wicked, I think, just has to be extremely, extremely great to get any real buzz outside of some of the technical categories. But it's worth the mention. 35, a film that I've heard some interesting things about. We'll get into it. We Live in Time, A24 narrative, a proven prestige studio that has a proven track record of smaller, more intimate stories. Chance at finding an audience both commercially and critically. I've heard some mixed reviews about this movie, just kind of personally in my own bubble. People who are in the film system, film studios, however you want to call it. I've heard that this film had some test screenings, and this might be a little bit of a mess. It comes from the director who did Brooklyn. I like both the young stars. If this movie clicks, I think there is a chance at maybe a best original screenplay. I kind of gave the best odds to. Let's also talk another film that explores a relationship over time, and that is Robert Zemeckis' Here, Sony Pictures. The cast and director of Forrest Gump returning 30 years later to deliver a seemingly sentimental story that looks far more grounded than anything we've seen from Robert Zemeckis recently. What should the red flag for this movie be? Robert Zemeckis has not made a good movie in quite literally, it kind of feels like decades. I mean, Welcome to Marwen. He had the Pinocchio film a few years ago. I'm trying to think. He's had so many bad films. I mean, he's been so stuck in the terrible technology of CGI, making films like Beowulf or Polar Express or The Christmas Carol. Like, all those films were disasters, utmost disasters, to be honest. And it's a question of, does he still have it? I don't know. I mean, Flight was really the last grounded story he had. Even Welcome to Marwen just had bad special effects in it. Here's probably going to have some, but I mean, at least it has a much better cast this time around. But Zemeckis is never a stranger to getting good cast. You're just kind of hoping for the Forrest Gump that he still has something of artistic integrity left after a film like Pinocchio, which had very little artistic integrity left. Most likely nomination, I literally put question mark. This film premieres November 1st. Coming in at 33, I also have another film directed by someone that you can never really count out, despite their track record, especially the past decade or so. This is a sequel, 25 years in the making, once again starring one of the hottest young actors opposite a Hollywood titan in Denzel Washington, and once again directed by a legendary filmmaker. This film won Best Picture in 2000 and now has a sequel at Paramount, Gladiator II. And what is the most likely nomination? I actually just kind of went straight. Looked back at Napoleon's Oscar nominations last year. I saw that it got a production design. I think this film is very much in the realm of possibility of getting production design. I want to actually kind of believe that this film should be much higher, that 33 is doing a huge disservice of it. But Ridley's track record with the Academy recently just hasn't been particularly great. He gets a few. He gets The Martian. He gets a little bit of buzz with House of Gucci. He gets a little bit of buzz with that movie that Kevin Spacey got fired from, All the Money in the World, I think is what it was called. But he hasn't been particularly consistent. He makes like 1 to 2 films a year, and a lot of them go ignored. So that's why I have a little bit of a hard time putting him on this list. Let's go on to the next category. Best Picture is out of the question, but here's a screenplay nomination for your trouble. I kind of see this as a category like The Big Sick in 2017. Basically a film that we're like, for whatever reason, we're not really considering one of the best pictures of the year. I think that's ridiculous. However, here is a screenplay nomination for your troubles. I have a few films on this one. We're going to go 32 to 26 on this one. Super speed here. Woman of the Hour from Netflix, narrative directorial debut of Anna Kendrick that's proved to be a surprise out of TIFF last year. That signifies the young actress has a few tricks up her sleeve. Most likely nomination, again, kind of self-evident by this category. I'm saying screenplay. This film had its premiere at TIFF. It will premiere on Netflix at some time. I know it premieres in Canada October 11th. It's actually having like a theatrical run. I'm curious about this film. I've heard so many great things about this movie. This movie feels like a movie made for me. I am so beyond excited to see it. I just don't know how much it's going to click with the Academy. Coming in at number 31, another film that I have a lot of fascination with, but I just don't know how it might have a lot more mainstream play than it is going to be with the Oscars. It is Saturday Night's Sony Pictures narrative celebration of 50 years of SNL, one of the best, most influential comedic institutions in Hollywood. Most likely nomination, again, screenplay, premieres TIFF September 10th. This movie can kind of be up and down because, Jason Reitman as a filmmaker himself is up or down. And when I've liked his films, I've liked his films. And when I dislike his films, I dislike his films. Like, it is kind of just that simple. He's either hitting for me or he's just completely missing for me. Let's see how Saturday Night Live does. Great cast, Gabriel LaBelle, extremely talented. I want this movie to be great. We'll see if it is great. Number 30, this one's kind of actually, I don't think there's any chance this film gets it, but if it does get a nomination or if it even does get a campaign, it's going to be for this category of screenplay. It is Searchlight Pictures' Kinds of Kindness, a movie I hated, a movie that I really disliked, as anyone knows who's watched this channel and saw my review. The narrative for this film, it's an artistically challenging narrative made by one of Hollywood auteurs, which showcases his prolific talent and Emma Stone's incredible taste. Most likely nomination, the original screenplay, premiered earlier this summer. I think this is a bad film. I do not care if this movie completely misses out, but with Yorgos directing and writing, you just have to throw it in now, just due to how much Yorgos has proved himself to be a staple in the Academy for the past decade. Coming in at number 25, I have a Netflix release starring one of the hottest actors in Hollywood right now. I got Hitman. And the reason I have Hitman here, and here's the narrative, Glenn Powell is a star, and the Academy wants to say that they were the first to anoint him with his first Academy Award nomination. I think they would love to get on that hype, get on that TikTok fervor, if you will. I think most likely nomination, it would be, he wouldn't get it for actor, he'd get it for best adapted screenplay. This one's actually kind of a weird one. If there's a lot of adapted screenplays that just kind of fall flat this year, I wouldn't be shocked to see people starting to throw Hitman in there. Linklater, Powell. I think this one actually is kind of a sneaky contender. Good comedy, good use of just everything that the movie does, and I think it's a nice way to get Glenn Powell at the Oscars. I wouldn't be shocked. Coming in at 28, A Different Man from A24. Narrative, a daring film out of Sundance, empowered by an independent studio with a proven track record that also served as an examination of Hollywood. That last part is not a good thing. Movies about Hollywood that might be negative do not typically go over well. Ask May December from last year. However, this film has a little bit different of type of representation. This film has maybe a more honest look. It has a comedic look, which I think a comedy satire is easier to swallow than May December, which is a satire, but far harder to read that it's a satire at times. A Different Man, I just think has a little bit more in play. A24 is really good at marketing films as well. Most likely nomination, I know I said screenplay. I'm actually going to throw it out to Adam Pearson for Best Supporting Actor in this category. And this feels like one of the few Sundance movies that actually is going to break out from this year. We'll have a few more that we'll talk about. Number 27, also an Sundance film. I haven't seen this film yet, though. It did premiere in Sacramento recently. It is from A24, Didi. Narrative, a personal film that serves as a document in time as well as it offers wonderful representation of the Asian American experience, championed by a studio that knows how to market these types of stories to acclaim. Past Lives, Everything Everywhere All at Once, Minari. Most likely nomination, I'm giving Best Original Screenplay. I will have a review out for this movie soon enough, as I do plan on seeing it soon. So I will save some of my thoughts for that. But wanted to shout it out real quick because I've heard great things. Number 26, and this is the last within this category. We are talking about a director that has had 2 films in the same calendar year, seemingly. We'll see if his other film actually releases. I have his other film much higher as a tease. But number 26 from Amazon MGM, it is Zendaya. It is Luca Guadagnino. It is Challengers. Narrative, Luca Guadagnino in the same calendar year releases Challengers and Queer, signifying his incredible eye for talent and stories worth telling. I think the most likely nomination for this film actually isn't a screenplay. I hope it's score. I had some mixed thoughts on Challengers. I think it was good overall. The score of this movie, done by Atticus Ross and Trent Reznor, is wonderful. It is the highlight of that movie for sure. I would definitely want to see this one get a best score. I just think this film is just, I think Luca is going to have other films this year that the Academy, I should say, is going to welcome. Number 25, running for acting nominations, but actor's agent requires a Best Picture FYC campaign. Pretty self-explanatory what this category is. It is essentially the ego of an actor, or the ego, I should say, of an actor's agent, puts it in the contract. Hey, if we're going to do this, you need to not only show out for Best Supporting Actor, Best Actress, Best Supporting Actress, we're asking for Best Picture. We want to put that on the title of the DVD. We want to put that on the poster. We want to see the Best Picture mark. So we're paying for that, or you guys are paying for that. Number 25, I have in this case, it is The Substance, which is being released by Mubi, I think is the group releasing this movie. I cannot say I'm familiar with Mubi. It is the narrative for this film. It is a daring genre film that features brave female performances that feel in conversation with David Cronenberg's earliest work, including a performance from Demi Moore, that is being described as one of the best performances of the year. Most likely nomination, I am saying Demi Moore for Best Actress. Premiere U.S. September 20th. This film premiered at Cannes in May. 24, and let me grab some water real quick because this takes a lot out of you. 24, I have a film called The Outrun, Sony Pictures classic. I am not excited for this film, and I'll explain it in a second. Narrative, Saoirse Ronan has paid her dues as an actress, and it's her time to shine. Most likely nomination, Saoirse Ronan, Best Actress, premieres October 4th. Had its premiere earlier this year at Sundance Film Festival. Here's the reason I am not excited for this film, and I didn't get to see this film when I attended Sundance virtually last year. The reason I am not excited for this film is, simply put, the premise of this movie about a person in recovery from, I believe it's alcohol/drug addiction, substance abuse. how am I supposed to say this? It feels like a performance that is designed to earn acclaims. And I have to see the film. Outside looking in, I struggle with this narrative of just being like, okay, is this kind of just a vanity project where the actor can just kind of be sympathetic, have this hard story, subtle but brilliant performance? Like, we've heard this terminology before. This type of movie is not one that I get excited for, which is my apprehension, and that's my own fault. But regardless, it is coming out soon enough. I will see this film, and I will have a review out of it. 23. This is a film. Yikes. Okay, let's just talk about this one right now. It is Night Bitch, Sony Pictures classic. The narrative of this film is Amy Adams. Yay or nay? Is Amy Adams a great actress who makes Oscar-worthy films? And a few years ago, I kind of think the answer was overwhelmingly yes. And since like 2017, basically post-Arrival, I don't know if she has one good movie under her belt. That is not an exaggeration. She has a few decent performances under her belt. I think she's pretty good in Vice. That's probably about it. She's horrendously bad in Hillbilly Elegy. She's not good in Dear Evan Hansen. She is not good in oh god, what was that film? She's fine enough in Disenchanted, but like nowhere near as good as she was in the first film. It's just mistake after mistake with her career, basically post-Arrival, and she just kind of needs a hit desperately. And I just don't know if Night Bitch, this movie that's apparently like this metaphor for women and comparisons to dogs and like subordinate, I guess would be probably a word to describe it. I don't know much about this film. I know it's based on a book, if I'm correct. It's premiering September 7th. This, to be honest, it just feels a little too weird for the Academy. This will have its U.S. premiere December 6th. We'll see what happens. I'm not really having much stock, but Amy Adams is a good actress. Coming in at number 2, no U.S. distribution at this moment. It is premiering Venice August 29th, so I'm sure will get picked up soon enough. It is Maria, which is one of Hollywood's most famous actors, once again showcasing her amazing talent, directed by Pablo Larraín, the man who directed Kristen Stewart, and Natalie Portman to Oscar-nominated performances in Spencer and Jackie. This is kind of the third film of his great women trilogy. Most likely nomination, Angelina Jolie, Best Actress. Assuming this movie is good, I think the nomination almost feels secure. This is one of the higher ones that I feel good about at this point. And I'm actually pretty excited for this film because I have liked Pablo Larraín's films. I know people were very critical of his past 2 films. I know this is very much a hardcore director. People who are really on this wavelength like his films. People who are not dislike his films. I was really on the wavelength, especially with oh my gosh, what is it called? Spencer. And I thought that film was great, so I am excited to see Maria. 21. This is a film I did review on this channel. It is Longlegs Neon. Really, Ben, Neon, Longlegs here. Really, you're giving this one a chance at a Best Supporting Actor nomination for Nick Cage. You're damn right I am. Hollywood's most singular talent, after spending a decade plus lost in the jungle, has returned in full force and reestablished himself as one of Hollywood's most prolific, interesting, and dangerous performers, working with exciting directors. Let's just stop a stupid narrative I have been hearing online. Nicolas Cage is fundamentally fantastic in Longlegs. You can have your flaws with the film. I certainly have a few issues with the film. Nicolas Cage is not one of them. Every moment he is on screen is terrifying and is upsetting, and is why he is one of our most interesting actors. That's why Longlegs is being on here. I just think if a few other films kind of underperform or the performances don't really catch on, I think people will start going down the ballot, and they're like, oh yeah, Nicolas Cage, respected actor, gave a great performance this year in a film that overperformed. Maybe you just start seeing a momentum built that way. Number 20, this film's interesting. Really don't know much about it. I know it is a workplace drama, narrative, beloved Hollywood actress with a good history with the Academy Awards, teams up with one of independent cinema's most exciting studios and delivers a performance that serves as an examination of the American workforce, where she takes center stage. This is Nicole Kidman with A24, working on a film called Baby Girl. Most likely nomination whenever Nicole Kidman is up for awards. She's been nominated 5 times, most recently for Meet the Ricardos. A bad performance from Nicole Kidman. The year later, she should have gotten the Oscar nomination for Best Supporting Actress for The Northman, but I digress. Whenever she's up for an award, you have to put her in consideration. This film is going to premiere Venice August 29th, so quite literally Thursday. So today when this video drops, having a US release seemingly of December 25th. Oh boy, this category is about to get really spicy. It's about to get controversial. People are going to hate me for it, but we're just going to dive into it because the Academy is shallow. The Academy does not always reflect art, and sometimes they are very responsive to what is going on in the cultural zeitgeist, and other times they are not very responsive. I am putting this one as just such a broad, the Academy is going to the Academy in some way, and it might be for better or for worse. And the name of this category is Let's See How November 5th Goes, Election Day in the United States. Number 19, I have The Seed of the Sacred Fig. This is from Neon. Narrative international film hailing from Iran that tells the story of an investigating judge in Tehran who finds himself investigating political corruption during an ongoing nationwide political protest, which may serve as a reflective based on what the GOP may decide to enact if they lose this election. Let's just be honest. I mean, political turmoil in a country might be a very real thing come November 5th. And I mean, we saw what happened January 6th, 2021. Let's not kid ourselves that something like that, imagery like that may feel very true. America always makes films like this feel a little bit more timely and important. And that is a really just American-focused way at looking at film. But let's also just address the elephant in the room. That's kind of the Academy. That's kind of how they look at a lot of art. Most likely nomination, I am saying Best International Feature. Premiered at Cannes and has its French premiere at September 17th. Number 18th. Oh boy, I'm sure people have been waiting for this film for a second to be talked about. And people are like, there's no way. There is no fucking way you should have this film coming in at number 18. You are a dumb man. And I am a dumb man. And for some reason, it is not. I almost don't want to believe this movie is as bad as it is being presented as until I finally see the movie, which is Megalopolis, which is Francis Ford Coppola, putting it all out on the line, probably one last time. One of our great filmmakers who reshapes cinema, putting his career on the line one last time and explores the collapse of a modern empire due to corruption. Again, maybe a little timely. Francis Ford Coppola cannot go quite literally 48 hours without having a really bad headline. And whether you want to say, oh, the headlines are misleading, they're headlines. They're making news. They are making rounds. Not great. Really bad. Francis Ford Coppola has foot and mouth syndrome. Hiring the cast that he did, Jon Voight with a microphone in front of him, literally like 6 weeks before an election. Horrendous idea. Getting a lot of canceled actors and talking about modern day, cancel culture. Like, Jesus Christ, Francis, like, come on, give your film a chance. I'm still really excited and curious to see what this film is. Let's be honest, the reviews out of Cannes was not very promising. This doesn't seem like it is going to be The Godfather Part 2. I think realistically, this is a film that will develop a following, especially with Francis Ford Coppola fans. There's going to be certainly an audience, I think, for this film. I just don't know how mainstream that audience is going to be. But I'm not counting Francis out. And who knows, maybe current political events will help it. Number 17, this one's going to be controversial because it seems like 50-50 on this movie, and I'm on the 50% that believes this movie is wonderful, that it is great, and is extremely timely. And I have a feeling in a few months, a lot of you are probably going to look back at this movie and think, maybe we were a little wrong for calling this movie apolitical. I don't know what any of you were talking about, because this movie is far from apolitical. It is actually so obvious what its political leanings are. It is so obvious what this film is commentating on. It is Alex Garland's Civil War, which the narrative of a story of a president refusing to accept an election results and enacting a full-blown civil war across America where he weaponizes his militia supporters may make Alex Garland's a political film, quote unquote, actually quite political and timely. I don't know how else to put it. Most likely nomination. I still think it's going to, if this film gets a nomination, sound should be in it. I think the sound in this movie is wonderful. I think Jesse Plemons is actually a sneaky candidate for best supporting actor. And I think he's wonderfully scary in that film. He is so perfectly weaponized in that movie. Number 16. You're probably all wondering, well, this is a category all related to the election, which involves Donald Trump. Is the Donald Trump movie going to be on your list? Yeah, it is. Number 16, The Apprentice. No U.S. distribution right now. Big worry sign, but I have a feeling this movie will get picked up soon enough. I know it's been having some legal issues with some of its original funders of this movie. Most likely, let's just talk about premise. In the face of a Trump presidency, nothing would piss him off more than a movie starring famous actors where they explore Trump's crimes, including his sexual abuse allegations. It is true. That is something that would piss off Donald Trump, because we know he pays attention to that stuff. We know he doesn't like this film already. Most likely nomination, let's just go best hair and makeup, even though Trump in real life has really bad hair and really bad makeup. Premiere happened at Cannes, October 18th in Ireland. Let's even see if this movie comes out. I have a feeling there is going to be eventually some leeway. A studio will snap, especially as the election comes closer and closer. Sleeping Giants. This is the category of films that haven't come out or are out and are just like, they're ready to pounce. If stuff starts going wrong, if a few nominations don't go the correct way, well, they're there, they're ready, and they are ready to take one of these last few remaining slots. I have 4 films in this category. Number 15, Piece by Piece, Focus Features. Narrative Lego movie has been deeply disrespected by the Academy, but this one has the more of a substance and uniqueness to break through and be viewed as more than just a toy commercial. Do I like that that's how the Academy looks at the Lego movies? No, but let's be honest, a film about Pharrell Williams serving kind of as a biography, kind of more imagination to it. I could see this playing really well. I think Best Animated Feature actually feels very safe. It is having this film's premiere to September 7th. My huge question with this movie is, does anyone really care about the Pharrell Williams story? I don't know if that's an artist that really needs to be explored in this medium, but if a film's great, then a film's great, and it doesn't really matter. You can make a great film out of someone that you didn't think is interesting to explore, and you can make bad films out of people that you think, oh my God, the subject matter is just ripe for a film. Number 14, Focus Features. So that also is going to be coming up, but for how many films is Focus Feature really going to campaign for? I think this film has some below-the-line success. It is the narrative of the merging of an artistic and commercial sensibilities from a mainstream auteur, playing with the mythology of 1920s international cinema. This is Nosferatu from Focus Feature. Robert Eggers coming off The Northman. This movie looks awesome. I am so excited for Nosferatu. Most likely nomination, makeup and hairstyle. Christmas is when it's supposed to release. I think a London Film Festival premiere is very much on the table. Maybe a New York Film Festival. We will see. This movie looks awesome, and this is, even if it doesn't get an Oscar nomination, this is one of the films I'm most excited to see this year. Number 13, one of the films that I have seen on this list and can speak about. I saw it at Sundance virtually this year. It is A Real Pain, Searchlight Pictures, a young actor weaponizing his stardom and showcasing that his talent is not limited to the small screen. Most likely nomination, I think Jesse Eisenberg could really be up for contention for Best Original Screenplay. In fact, I think it's a very good shot that he gets it. I believe this film premieres sometime mid-October. Again, some of us got to see it at Sundance. Humble brag, already did a review, but I might do another review for when this film comes out. I'll be honest, the Culkin performance, I actually thought Jesse Eisenberg was really great in the film, and I thought Culkin's acclaim was a little overblown and a little stanny. Like a little bit of just like his fans coming out in full force for this to really drive a narrative early, but he's really good in the film regardless. I just don't know if he is one of the best performances of this year. We'll see how much that carries on. Number 12, I think more people have this film higher, especially since it premiered and people now know the quality of this movie. I'm still struggling just because it doesn't feel like this movie is really having much cultural attention being paid to it. And maybe it's just the case of this movie premiered, I think, in LA and New York back in like July, like middle of July, and I still haven't gotten the chance to see it. It's not in Sacramento. It actually just got to Sacramento this week. It is A24. It is Sing Sing. What's the narrative here? A24 Magic, the little film that could, the film that carried it on from the summer. We've seen this before. We know what A24 can do. We know what a strong Coleman Domingo performance can do. I think most likely nomination, Coleman Domingo feels like a very safe bet for Best Actor. And even as of right now, from what I've heard, might be the frontrunner. I know a lot of people, even last year before this movie had even premiered, quite literally like a year from when the Academy would air. Basically the day after Oppenheimer won Best Picture. They're like, get ready for Coleman Domingo and Sing Sing. Number 11, I call this the Venice Powerhouses, which these are 3 films all having their premiere at Venice the next few days. Could be make or break for them. Number 11, The Room Next Door, Sony Pictures classic narrative. Pedro Almodovar is one of our most respected filmmakers, and the Academy is becoming far more international. Thus, this film being his first English language presents a unique opportunity for his work to be more readily accessible while maintaining his international fan base. He's always done well with the Academy, as evident by most recently Parallel Mothers getting some nominations, especially for Penelope Cruz, who a lot of people thought might go on to win it. She did not. However, I just think that this film has the chance. I am curious to see how Pedro is going to handle a full English film, because sometimes I feel like when a director steps out of their comfort zone, steps into English language, the results can be really mixed. So we'll see how that goes. This film has its premiere Venice, September 2nd. I think most likely nomination kind of feels like a Tilda Swinton nomination, and I assume she would be Best Supporting Actress because I think Julianne Moore is considered the lead in it. But it just doesn't feel like Tilda gets her flowers as often. Number 10. This film has no U.S. distribution, and Deadline actually did a article this morning on this film basically saying that there's a reason this film hasn't gotten U.S. distribution just yet. There might be some hesitancy on this film. It is most likely, not most likely, it is premiering at Venice September 3rd. This is Luca Guadagnino's Queer, adding yet another film to the 21st century queer cinema canon, while also cementing himself as one of our most consistently best directors, offering the Academy the chance to anoint him after essentially like recognizing him, making him breakthrough in 2017. They now have the opportunity to be like, this is your year. This was always your year. Queer and challengers all in the same calendar year. Congratulations. Like, you are one of us now. Like, you are truly being recognized with one of our highest honors. I think it's on the table. I would still say most likely nomination is Best Actor, Daniel Craig. Really, like I said, just depends on how this movie is going to be seen and received. And I heard someone kind of suggest, is this movie not actually going to be released until 2025? I think it's seemingly making the award circuits this year, but we will see. Obviously, it needs distribution soon. Number 9, another film. This film had a premiere back in 2019 for the first installment at Venice. Did really well. Sorry, grabbing some water. Did really well then. And what is it? 5 years later, makes its triumphant return, going for the top prize. Joker Folie Deux, a sequel to the surprise 2019 Oscar sensation, this time starring Academy Award darling in Lady Gaga, working within her comfort zone as a performer while showcasing her acting abilities. Let's just get the elephant out of the room, which I don't even think is that big of a deal. I've read all this stuff on Joaquin Phoenix. I know that people were rubbed really the wrong way with him walking out on Todd Haynes' film. I understand why it cost jobs. I understand why people are rightfully pissed at him. I am not trying to degrade any of that, and I know it must have really sucked for everyone involved in this film, especially as their film now kind of seems like it's hanging on limbo and maybe we'll never even actually get to shooting. I mean, this film was quite literally a few days away from shooting. I think it's a little ridiculous where the people are like, well, is this actually just going to tank Joaquin Phoenix's chances at an Oscar this year / Joker Folie Deux? No. The thing that's going to tank Joaquin Phoenix's chances at an Oscar this year is the fact that he won for this exact same role 5 years ago. I didn't think there was any future in which Joaquin Phoenix was going to get a Al Pacino Godfather Part 1, Godfather Part 2 nomination. I just didn't see it really in the play. I always saw the nomination going more to a Lady Gaga, proving herself as a Best Supporter actor in her role as Harley Quinn. I just don't think the Joaquin Phoenix thing was ever very real. And on top of this, Joaquin Phoenix is a difficult actor. Everyone's kind of known that about him. He's a very sensitive actor. Everyone's kind of known that about him. He has made very controversial decisions in the past that have really affected the art, have really pissed off studios, have really pissed off coworkers, all that. And guess what? When the results are there and the product is good and the art is of integrity, people kind of start giving you the pass. And I think that's the case that is going to follow Joaquin Phoenix. It's not like he's making shit. When Joaquin Phoenix makes a film, more times than not, it's really good, really interesting, and really, really honest in its artistic integrity. And if he feels that he couldn't approach the role for whatever reason, that there was going to be something basically compromising him in his ability to make this film, and he's like, I gotta step out. I thought I had this film. I don't have a handle on it. I do not have a handle on this performance. This is not going to work out. It's probably for the film's benefit. And that's going to be a harsh thing because the film may never actually get released. But the reality is, I just kind of trust Joaquin Phoenix. And I'm going to give him the pass because I think he's earned the pass for now until we learn more either about what happened with this film's production or he just keeps doing this too much where it's just like, dude, you're full on liability. Like the talent doesn't allow even for us to overlook it. But the reality is when you get thrown in conversations like Daniel Day-Lewis, you get to have a reputation of being difficult and it feels earned and it feels respectable. And that's kind of how I feel about Joaquin Phoenix. Number 8, and these are in the category of the zeitgeist. This is essentially films that seemingly are being talked about for one reason or another. They are in the conversation. Number 8, I have The Piano Lesson, Netflix, an August Wilson play being turned into a movie from the Washington family featuring some of our best actors. Washington family has had really good precedent with August Wilson stories, especially with Fences. This is now being directed by Malcolm Washington, starring John David Washington and starring Samuel L. Jackson. Did you know Samuel L. Jackson has only received one Oscar nomination in his life, that being for Pulp Fiction? So quite literally 30 years ago. Kind of crazy, right? Well, I think he might be looking at his second nomination, maybe even the win this time around for The Piano Lesson. Obviously, we need to see how this film does. It's premiering to September 10th. But I think he feels like a pretty good chance at getting a nomination. Number 7, His Three Daughters. This film premiered at TIFF last year. Powerhouse performances that have managed to keep in the conversation despite premiering a year ago at TIFF. Elizabeth Olsen, Carrie Coon, Natasha Lyonne. I kind of think, based on everything that I've heard, that Natasha Lyonne is the standout of this movie. This film does have the difficulty of, I think of a film like May, December, not to harken back onto it, but May, December had 3 performances where everyone was like, any of those 3 performances should get nominated? Well, you kind of split the vote and none of those 3 performances ended up getting nominated. That could happen. Netflix is also responsible for the campaign of this movie. Netflix is also responsible for number 6 here, Emilia Perez. I just did a trailer reaction to this trailer a few days ago. A film that premiered to critical acclaim, winning the Palme d'Or jury prize that would also signify a huge step forward in transgender representation at the Oscars. I think for that reason and other reasons, and based on just the fact that I just don't see Selena Gomez really getting a nomination, maybe Zoe Saldana, I think Carla Sofia Gascon is in a good chance to make history, and I've heard this performance is wonderful. Has a premiere at Netflix early or later this year. I don't actually know if it has a date yet, but this film premiered at Cannes. Number 5, a little skeptical on this film. I'm going to be fully honest, maybe more skeptical than other people are. Conclave Focus Features, Edward Berger's follow-up to All Quiet on the Western Front, this time starring two very famous actors in Stanley Tucci and in Ralph Fiennes. Did you know Ralph Fiennes has never won a award? Kind of crazy. I actually just assumed he'd either won it for English Patient or Schindler's List. He did not. So I think he's actually maybe a front runner for either Best Supporting Actor or Best Actor, whichever category they campaign. From my understanding, they're co-leads, so they might be able to kind of interchange based on how they feel about it. Huge red flag is that this film is PG. That's weird. This film being PG, I mean, if there's nothing that should signify that this movie should be higher, then sure, and the movie comes out and like it's not artistically compromised, then sure. Just on the outside looking in, when I heard this film was PG, I got a little less excited. Being fully honest, this film premieres November 1st. However, I think it's possible for this film to have a London Film Festival premiere. We are rounding out. We got 4 more left. Number 4, a complete unknown Searchlight Pictures musical biopic made by a guy with experience in the genre that also stars one of Hollywood's best actors who's coming off a crazy 12-month run with Wonka, Dune Part 2, and now a complete unknown. Chalamet, Best Actor. I actually think this is a lock. I really wanted Chalamet to actually get it for Dune Part 2 because I think he's great in that film. But I think if you're going between a sci-fi movie and him playing Bob Dylan, I think the Academy is going to lean towards Bob Dylan to get him the Best Actor nomination. More on Dune Part 2 in a second. Christmas, but New York Film Festival has to be on the table, right? Like Bob Dylan, New York. I just think that's very plausible. I'm very excited for this movie, and I didn't think I was. And then I saw that trailer, and I thought the trailer was great. Number 3, maybe a little too high. I know people are kind of questioning what this film is. It is Blitz, Apple. Most likely nomination, I'm saying Best Picture. Apple has all the money in the world and has a powerful director's name behind them, as well as a war film label. We know that they're willing to spend on FYC campaigns. We saw that proven last year with Killers of the Flower Moon. We saw that with Napoleon. This is their big film this year. This is the film they're going to push. We'll see how it goes for them. It kind of feels like the news on Blitz has been kind of soft. Like, I don't feel like I know anything about this movie. Like, I would almost like, if someone told me, oh, the film's not done yet and it's not actually going to release this year, I wouldn't be that shocked. Supposedly this film is premiering in November. We'll see if that actually happens. I really can't say. I don't know much about this film. All I know is it's a World War II story starring Harris Dickinson, Saoirse Ronan, Steve McQueen directing this movie, who obviously won Best Director and Best Picture a few years ago, basically about a decade ago with 12 Years a Slave. So we'll see on this. Still just the subject matter, the people attached, war film. I give it a good chance to get the nomination. Number 2, Dune Part 2. Narrative sequel that most people agree is superior. Most people, I don't agree, but most people do say it is better. To an absolutely critically beloved first installment, sticks the landing, plus the Academy stubbed Denis Villeneuve last time. They're not going to do it again. That's why I'm saying for sure Denis Villeneuve is going to get the Best Director. I almost feel, put that to the bank. I feel safe about that. I think Villeneuve is safe to get the Best Director nomination for Dune Part 2, because even though I have flaws, especially with the film story, the direction is, again, I had issues with the direction, to be fully honest and transparent, but like no one else did. And I get it. And I get why people didn't have issues with the direction. I thought it was kind of lifeless, but whatever. I'm wrong. Number 1, and everyone kind of knows what it is now based on the fact that I've gone through this list of 47 titles and haven't mentioned Anora yet. Well-liked director who's paid his due is finally being anointed in a movie that feels like a crowd pleaser. Sean Baker directs Anora. He's done Red Rocket most recently. He did the Florida Project in 2017. People like this guy. People are seemingly obsessed with this movie. The trailer looks great. Neon seems very excited for this movie. I think this film is going to be a Best Picture nomination, so I feel very safe about that. Everything's kind of working in this film's favor. I can't wait to see this movie. It looks great. And right now, I would say definitively this movie is at the number one spot. I think it actually did take Dune Part Two out. Maybe the modern audience, maybe when people check it out, they're not going to dig it as much as critics do. That always happens. But so far, it has all the press in the world. It has all the buzz in the world. It is, in my view, it is the front runner right now, which you never want to be the front runner this early. A few other films that supposedly might be coming out this year, but still don't know enough about. The Smashing Machine. I believe this is Benny Safdie, I believe, is directing this movie. It stars Emily Blunt and specifically stars Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Tells a true life story of a no holds fighter, fighting addiction, all that. Looks like a transformation. Looks like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson taking a real serious turn. Very fascinated about this movie. Not actually sure it's going to come out. Iron Claw kind of had a similar strategy, and it was also done by A24, where they released it way too late last year. Iron Claw, I think that movie premiered November. I honestly think Zac Efron would have been a Best Actor contender and received the nomination. I just think the film coming out basically Christmas was a mistake. If The Smashing Machine does come out and it is great, and that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson does deserve the nomination, I hope they don't make that mistake. And then the other one is, I believe it's called Juror No. 2. Clint Eastwood, 94 years old, has another movie, got interrupted to the strikes. It's all, from my understanding, it's all good. It's all good to go. Incredible cast. Toni Collette, J.K. Simmons, just all these really wonderful character actors in this movie. Kind of feels like his version of 12 Angry Men. Clint Eastwood making his last film, you have to keep it at least in contention. But anyway, that's 47 with those two 49 films. I know there's talk about Nickel Boys. I just don't know anything about the story. I don't know anything about the team behind the story, any of the filmmakers. We'll see how that movie comes out. I believe that is also having a TIFF premiere. I can't speak on that film much. So that's 50 movies right there. So thank you all for watching me on this long, but I think cohesive and very detailed list of 50 movies that just keep on your radar, because the Academy season is here and they're all going to probably have some conversation circulating with awards one way or another. Anyway, my name is Ben Friedman. Thank you all for watching. If you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe.